In this Upskill session 3, we are going to discuss about the most important aspect of JEE preparation, and that is nothing but practice. So if you are preparing for any competitive exam, the most important thing would be practice, and I am going to ask you this question that why do you think practice is important? Try and answer this question, because what I think is most of the people do not really understand why they are doing practice. So subconsciously they have this tendency to resist it, because they themselves do not clearly understand why they are doing the practice. So let us start from this question only. Why do we need to do practice? Because see, most of the times what you consider as knowledge, people think that I am going to X classes, Y classes, Z classes, they are giving me knowledge. No, they are not giving you knowledge. What they are giving you is information. So most of the times when we go and attend some classes, go to some faculty, what they will give you is information. Okay, this is my experience, how the things will work out, and this is what the data that we have gathered. If he can explain that to you with a lot of clarity, he is a really good teacher. But again, what he has fundamentally given you is nothing but the information how things are going to unfold. It is not knowledge. So in order to convert that information into knowledge, what we will have to do, we will have to do a lot of practice. Now what is practice? Practice is nothing but you experimenting with that information. How much and with what consistency will that information work or not work in what scenario? So now if I go back to the original question, what exactly we need to practice? Because this also students do not understand that. If I am doing physics, what should be the nature of practice? What should be the goal of practice? If I am doing chemistry, how should it be done? And if I am doing maths, what is the purpose of it? So I am going to clearly tell you, when we are doing physics, chemistry, mathematics, what is the purpose or orientation of that practice? So if you are doing physics, the idea of practice is to develop analysis. So what we are trying to develop, and this also we talked in the classes video, I told you that physics is an analytical subject where you need to develop your logic. How far you can extend that logic using basic concept and come up with a solution to a question. So that is what we are trying to develop here. So if you are doing this by solving fewer questions and slowly increase the level of question, but doing it very logically and not just trying to get answer applying some shortcut here and there. Shortcuts are also good, we need to apply them as well. But our idea should be that as a student, my focus should be to develop my logical ability to solve problems. In this way, if you are solving problems, even fewer questions you will solve, you will be able to develop a lot of skill set, because that is what your faculty wants you to develop. When we are doing mathematics, you will see that things will slightly change. So in mathematics, what will become more important is nothing but diverse problem survey. That would mean in classes, usually good faculties will tell you what are the standard problem types or standard applications. Every chapter will have somewhere around 15 to 20 standard applications. Now your idea should be, how can I combine that with the 15-20 problem survey of other topics and come up with a new solution. So idea here would be to know this and directly apply this. So one will be nothing but direct application that is useful for exams like BITSET. And the other idea would be to do it in a more coherent manner, understand connections between these problem types. Then it will become more relevant for your JEE as well as your JEE Mains and Advanced exam. This is what we are trying to do. So now idea would be, if I am doing practice in order to develop these two specific skill set in my mind, largely my practice will become more and more relevant. Otherwise also I will do, but it will not actually connect with the skill set that I am trying to develop as an end goal of that practice. If I move towards the third, that is nothing but chemistry, you can see the core idea there is nothing but retention. So you should understand that what kind of questions are getting asked, and what specific kind of data I would require in order to do those questions. Now this will become, data oriented approach will become more important if you are doing organic inorganic chemistry. But let us say that you are doing physical, then it will be closer to what we did with physics. Now once you have got this objective part clear, now we will move towards the next important question, that how much should a person should practice. Now see, there is a rule of thumb regarding how much. How much usually is determined by how many questions are there going to be in your actual exam. So whatever practice we are doing is nothing but a simulation of that exam. So practice should sound as closer to exam, and exam then will become as closer to practice. So when we are doing this practice, quantitatively we should understand that we should do at least that much amount of question on a daily basis, and I am using this word at least here to qualify it, that much questions that are there in your actual exam. So if I am going to write JEE Mains, you can see that in JEE Mains I will have to solve around 75 questions. In advance I will solve 120 questions. So if my goal is to clear or get a very good rank in JEE Mains, this is the number that I should try and achieve every day. This could consist of all the 3 subjects, physics, chemistry, mathematics, that is fine. But it should sum up to 75 questions. Secondly, if I am targeting advance, then the total number should be somewhere around 120. Now, this is one part, how much. We'll also talk about quality of those questions as we move forward. But quantity, if I talk about, this is 75, 120, this is the minimum quantity. Now, as a rule of thumb, we should solve somewhere around 30 to 40 questions per subject per day. Let us say you are doing 2 subjects, then divide that into 2. This number 75 or 120 should be divided into 2. If you are doing only 1 subject in a day, then you can do this much questions in 1 subject also. Idea is that it should sum up to this number, and then you can develop an Excel sheet or a Google sheet or a diary. I personally prefer Google Sheets because then you can share and collect that data for a long amount of time without losing the data. So now maintain a Google Sheet of how many questions you are solving on a daily basis in all the 3 subjects. Then see that on a weekly basis, the number of questions in every subject should average out to the same number. If you are able to follow this practice, what is happening is you are developing regularity in your practice. So one subject will not become very strong while other subject will not become very weak. You will have a mean across all the 3 subjects. Third is sincerity. Now what students will do is one day they will be very enthusiastic and they will think that okay, I will do whatever it needs today, and they will solve 200 questions. Next day they will not even solve 5 questions. Now if you do like that for a long amount of time, what will happen? Practice will become highly inconsistent. So it is fine you are solving 50, but then solve 50 daily. It is fine if you are solving 51, then solve 51 daily. Idea should be that every day we are increasing it. If you keep on increasing just one question on a daily basis, just one question, in 30 days you can increase 30 questions. In 90 days you can reach 90 questions. So what I am trying to tell you is basically it only requires 120 days to transform you as a student. It is a 120-day journey where you can just keep adding one question on a daily basis, and that will you will slowly start reaching this number. See, it is not going to be easy. Nobody is saying that this is very easy. I am saying that this is what needs to be done. If you are able to maintain this 2-3 parameters, one, the number of questions, second, the record of it, and third, consistency, you will see that huge amount of improvement will happen in due course of time. Now, there comes the question of quality of questions, how to solve these questions. Now, here I have seen that there are 2-3 things that you should understand. One is the choice of questions. First choice should be of the same quality as they are going to be asked in the exam. So if I am targeting mains as my primary exam, then the questions can be at mains level. If board, then boards level. If JEE advanced, then JEE advanced level. If BITSAT, then BITSAT level. It should be at the same level, largely speaking. Now, right from the day one itself, if I am thinking advanced, I cannot solve advanced questions. So then I should understand the second idea, that you should moderately increase or slowly, you should take moderately difficult question of whatever you can solve. Do not go towards very difficult question right from the day one itself. Otherwise, you will get demotivated, and whatever you could do, that also you will not do. So idea is to start small through easy questions, develop your confidence, slowly move on towards moderate questions, and then go towards JEE advanced questions. Third would be, and this is important, that how we are doing those questions. So I have understood that okay, I need to reach this level, this is how I am going to reach it. Now how to solve each of these questions? Now we are going very micro. So if I go very micro, my idea should be to read a question, form a strategy around it, a diagram, an algorithm, something, you draw a strategy around it. Then you implement that strategy, and more importantly, check your answer. So these 4 steps should also always be there: 1, 2, 3 and 4. Why I am saying these 4 steps? Because usually students will just read and want to implement the solution without even thinking that will that solution work out or not. Once you have drawn a strategy, do not just leave it, because if you leave at this stage, in the long run you will have problem of accuracy. You will see that your answers will not match in exam and that will lead to negative marks. So it is very important that you should always implement after strategizing. Some people will leave it here at this stage. They will implement, ho gaya, let us move forward. But the problem is that now again you have not checked your answer. So that is overconfidence that whatever I am solving is correct. That will not always work out. You need to check your answers and see that if some micro calculation is wrong somewhere, is my solution taking too much of time? So you will understand your time factor and accuracy factor only if you go till answer. Otherwise these 2 factors you will never understand, and then this will become huge problem when you write your actual JEE exam. I have seen students coming to me at the last moment asking this question, sir, how can I improve my speed? How can I do better in terms of accuracy? Now this is a process that we are going to develop on a day-to-day basis. One day, 15 days, 10 days transformation largely is not possible. So there are ways to do it in certain ways, but it becomes very difficult and it is a high learning curve. This is a great strategy. This everybody can do, they can implement and they can move forward with it. Once you have understood how, now let us understand there are few cons that you should avoid and a few things that you should keep in mind while you are doing your practice. The first is basically, instead of giving a lot of time, because this question again is asked generally by students to me, is basically, sir, how much time should I spend on the question? So you can spend as much time as you want, but the idea is that you also want to maintain some quantity and quality into the whole process. So it is highly advisable that rather than spending a lot of time, now lot you can define, but I can say that more than 5 minutes you should largely not spend. What you should do is you should attempt the same question multiple times, because see what we are trying to do. Following this process, we are trying to become a machine, become a person who can generate ideas. What could be the approach to solve a question? So if you are very good in generating approaches, largely you are working in the right direction. See, if you can generate approach by sitting 1 hour also. But what I am saying is, let us say that I solved that question I was unable to do. I went for a walk, I started doing some other questions and I came back. Then again I tried and did it. Again it did not happen. Then I looked into my notebook, again I try and do it. So what is happening is, when I am doing multiple attempts, I am referring something new, I am trying to do something new. So that idea of newness, creativity will get imbibed into you. And every time you will go with a new approach, that might not be valid for solving that question, but can become a very important approach when you are solving some other question. You understand that becoming a person that can generate newer approaches is more important than getting to the solution, because this is one skill set that is very relevant for exam rather than just the solution of that question. This is one. Second is, always work from easy to difficult questions. People will say that 80 questions should be easy, 10 should be moderate, 10 should be difficult. I will not go into the mechanics of that. You decide what is your level, based on that what you can moderately do. Do not do very difficult questions, because then you will lose motivation. Do not do very easy questions, because then you will become overconfident. To choose a zone in between, take a reference book corresponding to that or a module corresponding to that and focus on that. You will have a sweet spot. If you work around that, largely you are doing a good job. Third is basically maintain a practice record. I have earlier also told you this. Practice record is a very important thing. I have seen that student getting 1 or 2 digit rank just by maintaining practice record, because most of the people will do this in blind. I am working very hard. Can you quantify hard in the sense that how many questions do you solve every day? Nobody has that answer. See, I can also say that I work very hard, but exactly what amount of time is going where, that you should understand. Otherwise that hard is of no meaning. Now here there are 2 very important things. One is basically be calculative. See, you are trying to become an engineer. Engineers do very good calculations. So your idea should be, I should be very calculative in understanding what can be done in a day, can be done in a week, can be done in a month. What you can do in a month, you cannot do in a week. What can be done in a week cannot be done in a day. So thinking like that, I am going to solve the whole module today, is not a very good idea, because then you are setting yourself for failure. And if you fail, it is very difficult to get out of that depressive mindset. So again, your learning curve will increase. So idea is that be very calculative. Choose goals that can easily be implemented. I am going to solve 20 questions today. Very good. You solve 20, you can take +5. I will solve 30 questions. I was unable to do 30 next day. I will not do it. This is something that I will not recommend. Go with this approach. At least you solve 25 questions. Corresponding to that, you will get some outcome. And most important point is basically don't break your momentum. Most of the times, a student will do practice for 1 or 2 days. They will feel good about it. They will write one test. They will get some result. Then the third day, they will again not do it. So see, it is very important that let us do less, but do it very consistently every day. Maintain a momentum and have a tunnel vision into place. This will not just happening by you thinking, because there will be other pulls and pull, like school exams are there. Something is happening in the family. So have a tunnel vision. What is going to come where? And according to that, you can take things up. So again, let us go back to what we have learned. Okay. In the form of an exam orientation, how it works out. Now, if you look into that, what I have told you currently is why we should practice, because practice is important to convert information into knowledge. What exactly we should develop will depend on practice to practice, what skill set we require, and I have already repeated this twice. Third, how much we should practice depends upon how much amount of questions would be asked in the exam. A NEET student will practice 150 questions, JEE advanced student 120, and JEE means 75. Level of the question should be corresponding to that of the exam. Then we thought about what are the things that we should keep into mind. Now we are coming to a very important point, exam orientation. See, most of the times we are doing practice, but we are not keeping exam orientation in mind. What does that mean is basically, my practice should look more like exam, so that exam ultimately looks more like a practice session. Now, in order to do that, now think what your exam will do. Exam will give you 75 questions or 120 questions to be solved in 3 hours. You will sit with a clock running, where you will have an estimation how much time to give to every question. You will do that, and after that you will get your result. So now, how do students generally practice? They will flip this. What they will do is they will solve a question, check the answer, then again think over it for 5-10 minutes, then they will go to the next question. Now see, what you are doing and what exam wants to do is completely different. So what I want you to do is slowly, and this will not happen all of a sudden, slowly. Now this is a very important word here. You need to be slow and gradual while adapting this approach. Move towards this exam oriented approach. So what you should do is set some time. Let us say that I have set 1 hour. Set the number of questions to be solved. Let us say I have set 20 questions. It can be 25 also, 30 also, and it can be as low as 15 also. All the 4 models are fine. Set some question, that is what I am saying. Now solve them in one go. So what you will do is, those 15 questions you will exam, and not 20 questions you will attempt like an exam. So what you are going to do is, whatever is easy you will attempt first, and now whatever you are unable to do you will leave, and the difficult you will leave, and then moderate you will again do. Now you are doing it like an exam, so that you are developing that exam psychology. Attempt easy questions first, then slowly moderate, then going towards the difficult question, and then more importantly check your answers, because you will also understand, because this word is very common word in JEE preparation, silly mistakes. There is nothing like a silly mistake. You are losing concentration while solving your paper. Once you lose your concentration and your mind or consciousness sways away from what you are doing, those kind of mistakes will increase. If we are very much focused on what we are doing, mistakes will not happen. So we need to consciously practice it by doing this practice. So when you check answers, you will get to know what is your accuracy in questions that you can actually do, what kind of so-called silly mistakes you are generating. So that now you need to rework in every practice session that are you able to control these things or not. More importantly, now there might be a lot of questions here, especially difficult questions that we talked about earlier, that you were unable to solve. So now allot some time, let us say 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it can be 30 minutes also. Whatever you are comfortable with, allot these questions some extra time and solve them at peace. Refer your notebooks, give multiple attempts like we talked about earlier. So now what will happen is, you are giving enough time to those questions that can actually result into growth of your mindset and growth of your intellect as a student in the subject. So time is going in the right place, and rather than going into those areas that I already know. Now go back to the class notes I already told and attempt again. How many attempts? Till that time this question becomes subconscious in nature, you are able to remember the question. And after doing all of these, if again you are not able to go, the next step would be to go and ask the faculty. Now this is a trend that I have seen these days, that people will go to internet, search the solution. See, that is largely defeating the purpose. You do not want solution of that question, because question will change in the exam. This is not a board exam, this is a competitive exam. What you want is skill set, and skill set will only come when you struggle against questions. So solution is unimportant. Mindset, skill set, how to attempt, how to approach those questions is important, and that you cannot get just by going to some website and seeing the solution. It is fine, you have tried enough and you are totally puzzled, now you can go and see it. But that largely did not serve any purpose. What served the purpose was your struggle, the process of getting till the answer. And that is going to matter, and that is going to give you marks in the exam. Now see, here I totally understand that what I have told you is why we need to do practice. What exactly need to be done in practice, how to implement it. And we also learned about some do's and don'ts. Apart from this, I gave you a system that you can implement. Now I also told you that implement it slowly. So you can see that every day I am doing this practice for 1 hour, this kind of exam oriented practice. Slowly I can make it 2 hours. Slowly I can make it 3 hours, and then everything can happen through this system. Because it is very counterintuitive, you will feel a pressure, and not everybody can handle the pressure. So it is not going to be easy to implement the system that I have told you, but if you are able to implement it and keep a record, slowly you will see improvement. And a student who can score 150 marks in JEE Mains can easily score up to 230 to 40 marks just by implementing the system. So again, remember these points. I hope this session was highly useful for you. In the next one, we are going to discuss about retention, because now you have learnt it. How to retain it in the long run is going to be key in moving forward. See you until next one. Bye bye.